I first was exposed to land speed racing back in the mid 70s. I was watching the Wide World of Sports. It was really all that was on Saturday afternoons when you're a kid like me. And I watched Craig Breedlove battle a British team to try and break the speed of sound at the Bonneville Salt Flats. And they went back and forth, and eventually Breedlove lost and the Brits won. But I was really, really impressed with his tenacity, and I was just fascinated by this concept of going really, really fast and intrigued by this place, the Bonneville Salt Flats. And so fast forward 40 odd years, and I rekindled, in my early 50s, I rekindled my passion for motorcycles. And so I started going to the Laconia Motorcycle Week rally, and that is kind of how this show started. And through that, I met Jay Allen. He was running a bar called the Broken Spoke up there during Motorcycle Week. And it turns out that Jay Allen is one of the top land speed racers in the world. So, of course, I'm talking to him, and I tell him my Craig Breedlove story. And he convinced me that I should go to Bonneville. And I said, I don't have a racing motorcycle. I don't have the money, yada, yada, yada. And he was like, no, just go. He goes, they have a Ride What You Brung competition. You can go there, bring whatever motorcycle you want, and as long as it passes safety inspection, you can run it on the salt, and they'll give you an official time. So I decided that I was going to do that. And over the winter, I decided I was going to build the bike that my best friend had, that my parents would let me have, a 1976 Harley-Davidson dirt bike. Back then, for a couple of years, back in the AMC years, they partnered with AMC partnered with Aermachi to make some dirt bikes. They weren't really good dirt bikes, but I thought they were cool as hell. I mean, it was a Harley-Davidson, and it was the only Harley-Davidson I could ride when I was 12 years old. So I started buying the pieces to the motorcycle, and I had an accident, and I couldn't finish building it. So I told my buddy John Turner, who coincidentally was at that point now running the High Octane Saloon, which used to be the Broken Spoke up in Laconia. So John Turner, coincidentally, has a 1975 Harley-Davidson dirt bike. And he said, well, why don't you take my bike to Laconia? Why don't you take my bike to the Bonneville Salt Flats, and I'll meet you out there. So that's what we did. I drove his bike out to Bonneville, had a really, really great time, and we just, I fell in love with the place, and I realized, that there was a place for me in Bonneville, and, it really doesn't matter there. You can, they race everything from 50 cc's up to streamliners there, and I realized that, there was a class for me. I mean, I believe it was back in the mid-30s, the Southern California Timing Association started creating classifications there. And they have all sorts of different classes, including a production class. And that's what I decided. I was like, well, hell, I realized that my old Harley-Davidson was going to do it, but I was like, I can set a land speed record, right? So I went up to the guy who's had the record for 10 years, and I said, hey, could you give me some pointers? And he said he was retiring and asked me if I wanted to buy his motorcycle. So I did. I don't know anything about motorcycles. I don't know how to make them go faster, but I figured my friend Dan DeSorbo, he knows a lot about motorcycles, and I figured he agreed to to work on the motorcycle with me, and I figured if I could just get lighter and Dan could get the motorcycle to go faster, I could have a land speed record. No, it's never that easy, is it? So, every Wednesday night, I'd hang out with Dan at his shop, and we'd drink beer, we'd talk about motorcycles, and he would work on the motorcycle, get it in tip-top shape, and teach me a little bit about the motorcycle, because I really didn't know anything. I was mechanically challenged. So, and then as we got closer to the Bonneville Motorcycle Speed Trials, I started working out. I stopped drinking. Well, I didn't stop drinking, but I cut down on my drinking. Started, exercising, getting on the bike, working out really hard, trying to lose weight. I was in tip-top shape. A week before the Bonneville Motorcycle Speed Trials, they were canceled because the track was flooded and destroyed. So I couldn't go. I had another year that I had to wait. So another year hanging out with Dan, working on the motorcycle. He did a great job. Motorcycle's in tip-top shape this year. And I was doing everything I could to get it to shape. I was lifting weights. I was, I was even jogging while I mowed the lawn, and I was riding the bike, and so I was all ready to go. Packed up the van, and we're about 17 hours into the trip with my wife Amanda, and find out that the race is canceled again. So I decide to go up to Maine, and they have an event up there, the Loring Speed Trials, that they do land speed racing at a former Air Force base in Maine, and they have a 2-mile long runway. And land speed racing is it's not in Bonneville. It's a little different than Loring. In Bonneville, the land speed racing is it's not like drag racing, right? Where it's a quarter mile and it's really fast and then it's over. You have about a mile or so to get up to speed, and then there's a measured mile. And then if you set a record, you have to come back and do it in the other direction, just in case there was any wind helping you. And so your time out in Bonneville is the average of the 2 miles, right? It's not your top speed. It's your average speed for those 2 runs. And that's how they do land speed records.